Alright, so we have our cockpit, or at least some of it, and we want it to show and be functional within X-Plane, so let's get right into that. Now your cockpit object is actually going to be quite simple. It's not everything that we're looking at the moment. Instead, your cockpit object should only be things that need to be drawn on your panel, so the screens of these G1000s, and then manipulators, and that's all that we need inside our cockpit object. So I'm going to go into this object here. I'm going to grab this face, which is our screen, and I'm going to hit P, and I'm going to separate that by the selection. So I now have that right there. Quick, give it a name. Call this screen. I'm going to do the same for this one over here. Grab that face, separate, we'll call it screen. Okay, now I'm gonna grab that screen and this screen. Make sure I have these two screens, and I'm gonna move them. I'm gonna put them on layer number 5 here. And that's going to be our cockpit object, this layer number 5. So these layers, these down here, your little squares, you've got 20 layers. The top row is 1 through 10, bottom is 11 through 20. So here we are. Right now that's our whole cockpit object, just those two screens. Now let's say we're going to also want, just real quick, let's throw in a, let's just do a quick plane. Right there, we're gonna scale. Now you also notice I always jump into edit mode before I start scaling or editing, and that's just because if you scale while you're in object mode, it throws things off and you have to apply the scale and all that, and it just, I've gotten used to doing it right here. Alright, so what I've got here is just a simple square that's going to cover up our switch, and that is going to be a click spot for that switch. So I'll come over here, I'll name this battery switch command, like that, and then let's move it also to our cockpit layer. Okay, so right now that's our whole cockpit object. Let's go to right here, layer number 5. I'm gonna name it cockpit. We're gonna be cockpit this time for type. Auto detect textures isn't gonna really matter for this one. Okay, so we're going to do that now. So we've got our little manipulator selected. We're going to come over here, give us a new material. We'll call that, let's see, call it cockpit, just for continuity. Let's see, and let's see, we want, here we go, part of cockpit panel. Region, we're going to leave it none. Make sure you get that part of cockpit panel. And trying to remember if we need to do anything there. I don't think so. And since we're on our little battery switch manipulator, we can add our data ref. Let's see, we're going to search for battery 1. Can't read what's going on here. There we go. We'll go battery on and throw in those little brackets just in case. So if you do the little asterisk in there, it'll just work for any. Otherwise, you can do your array of 0 or 1 for whichever number you're working on. Let's see, this is a manipulator. Here we go. And it's going to be a command switch. Up, down. Seemed like there was an up, down. Command switch, up, down, 2. Okay. Cursor can be the hand for now. Tooltip, we'll call it battery. Oh, here's what I really wanted. We want, let's use a command instead of a, there we go. Batteries, let's just do battery toggle. We can actually eliminate that data ref. There we go. We got our command, battery, and it's batteries toggle. Okay, so if we've got that, and we've also selected that it's going to be part of our cockpit object here. Let's see, was there anything else we needed to do? I think that's all I can think of at the moment for that. So then we also need to take our screens, and they, let's see, is there a panel manipulator? No, we'll just leave that blank for now. But let's go here, give it that material, part of the cockpit object. Same with this one, part of the cockpit object. Okay, now we also need to, real quick, place these kind of where they're supposed to line up on our panel. Let's bring in our image editor. And I'm just going to Control-J join all these because there's no need for them to be separate at the moment. Tab in so I can see all of them. Let's grab this one. I'm going to put its screen about there. So now you should be able to select the inside X plane. You can run the command to and that switch doesn't actually matter, but you can run the command to make a panel preview, and then you can use that texture right here to help you line those up. But for right now, it's going to be in that general area, so that should be sufficient on that. And let's see, let's make sure we've just got everything set up right here. World cockpit. Okay, so I think that's all there. So let's go ahead and export it. and it just goes in your plain objects folder. Let's see, and while we're at it, what's this? Layer 3. Let's export layer 3 real quick. Let's make sure it's set up. So this one here, I'm just going to call it interior. It's an aircraft part. We'll leave that at auto detect for now. I'll fix it later. Let's see, we got to grab let's create a new material, call this interior. Oh, I know there's a way to do this quicker, but it almost always throws an error if I don't have textures assigned. Okay, I think that's all of them. Okay, so let's see, all that, not part of the cockpit. Interior part, that should be good to go. Export object. Okay, so let's see, pull up our folder here, objects. Okay, we've got an interior, we've got a cockpit. That misspelled rudder is gonna go away, that's garbage, but let's see. Okay, so we open up Plane Maker. Make it so we can see it. We're gonna go to our MISC objects here, add. See, I'll add our cockpit, open, lighting for that will be inside, shadow mode should be interior, let's see, and it's an interior cockpit object, add another one, interior, open, lighting, it's going to be inside, shadow mode, inside, and we don't need any of that, but I am going to click high res on this one. Not sure why it's clicking adding high res to everything. Well, we'll leave it at that for now since we don't have a texture on it anyway. Okay, now we can see it right inside there that we've got that at least that far. Now let's, oh, so another thing I need to point out real quick, so in our panel, remember we had our 2D panel like this, I just created a quick 3D panel, so that's G1000, G1000, and those I'll show what I'm going to do with those in a little bit later. This texture is 2048 square, and that's so that I'm going to try and integrate Avi tab into this as well, and that'll take up some space over here. But so right now we've got our two G1000s sitting right there. So we can save that and quit, and let's pull up X-Plane and see. Hopefully we should have some displays showing and a click spot where that battery switch is. I should have had X-Plane pulled up, but it's a little taxing on my computer to have all of those programs all up at the same time. Okay, on the Sportsman, I like going out in the middle of nowhere. It just makes things load up faster when I'm doing all my tests. All right. Well, I see it there. X-Plane recognizes that there's something here. Oh, there they are. Okay. We're going to have to adjust where our pilot sits. But, as you can see, we have instruments. And does our click spot? Yeah, so we've got our little hand over our click spot, although we shouldn't be able to see it. I'll have to go back in and double check, and I'll update the video when I figure out which little setting I missed. But we have our click spot. I didn't tie these to the battery yet, so they're not shutting off, but that shows you that we at least have that. Now, I'm not sure why we should be seeing our other panel. Not sure why that's not showing up at the moment. Let's see if we can crash this airplane real quick, just to verify that our instruments are actually working. There we go. So we are getting. All right. So at least our instruments are working. We're just going to need to figure out why the panel isn't showing up on the inside of our airplane. So while messing with it all, though, let me show. So back here in PlaneMaker, under the Standard tab in Viewpoint, it's down here, Aircraft and Panel Visibility. This 3D cockpit view for show exterior aircraft structure and props. 3D cockpit view, that was unchecked. And so I checked that, which took me way longer than it should have defined. But I checked that, and now, as you can see, we've got our panel here inside. I also, while I was at it, threw in a couple of the other objects just because I was curious if it was just that specific one. But so here we can see where we're at the moment. You can see control surfaces are working, and so anyway, if you come across that issue where you can't see everything, it is it's just under Standard, Viewpoint, and it's this visibility right here. And so Now you can see it's working, and we'll go into getting all of these sliding, and we'll make that invisible as well in future videos.